Welcome to A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm your host, Eric P. Bishop. This is a place where interesting people come to talk about their creative outlets. As for myself, I'm an author, podcast host, travel enthusiast, and lover of the outdoors. If you'd like to learn more about my published works or adventures, go to my website, ericpbishop.com. I hope you enjoy the show, and please go out and support today's guest. Thanks, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes, and tonight we got some high energy coming here. I got Martin Rooney, and we're going to talk about Martin's his first fiction book,
And
Blood Feud.
we're not just going to talk about it, Eric. You know I'm going to be bringing energy here. Hey, for everybody listening, I've got a new action thriller coming out. You're going to hear about that later, but there are some Easter eggs in this episode. If you like free stuff, if you want to read future editions that no one else will get to do, if you want to be part of something, you got to stick with us for this call. We're going to have a lot of exciting things. There's going to be veins in the neck, but stay with us because I got something for you in probably about 30 minutes.
Perfect. That's the way to start it, Martin. Way to go. You've drawn people in already. Now they're like, who is this guy? He's got the energy. So, who's Martin Rooney?
Who is Martin Rooney?
Who is Martin Rooney?
For everybody listening, hey, Eric and I'm even going to say this. Eric and I got to know each other, and we just went hiking, right? And I will say this: he did a great job. Everybody, I'm gonna shout him out right now. I thought we were going for a little hike. We ended up going for 5 hours. We burned thousands of calories. We actually were allowed to eat a lot of great stuff after we finished. But on that journey, we found out so much about each other, and I hope we just scratched the surface on bringing that out today. But here's what I will say first: everything I'm about to say about me is true. And you might go, wait a minute, like, did you really do all those things? Is that even possible? And here's what I will say. That just means I'm getting old, right? So to date myself, I am 54 years old. And I'll tell you what, for the last 40 years, I've been doing some pretty insane stuff. And if you got one cool thing each year for 40 years, we don't have enough time to talk about it. I promise I got more than them. So I am going to try to give my full tilt, down and dirty in less than 30 history on myself so that then we can jump in and answer the big questions. So here we go. Watch, ready? So I was born in New Jersey, right? Grew up in New Jersey, was a track and field athlete. Went on to college, a Division I track and field athlete at Furman University, and got my degree in exercise science because that's what I wanted to study. I ended up getting into the Medical University of South Carolina after that. I got my master's degree in health sciences, my bachelor's degree in physical therapy. But at the very end, I made the U.S. bobsled team right as I was finishing school. So then I got to travel around representing the United States around the world. I experienced athletics at the highest level. I wore the stars and bars. And then when my Olympic dream was over, I went back home to New Jersey. I didn't know where to go, and I became a physical therapist. And here's something very important for everybody listening. I wasn't even a few days in, and I knew, oh my gosh, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. Now, I liked what I did. If there are any therapists listening, don't hold it against me, but it wasn't like my ultimate passion, and I didn't think I could make the maximum impact. And it was just, man, I had this knot in my gut. I don't know if anybody's had it. It was like Sunday, there's the knot. It's the Monday blues, driving in a commute to work. And I just started studying other things. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to be back in fitness. I wanted to be back in sport. And one guy, which you're going to hear about today, who was my driver on the bobsled team and went on to win an Olympic silver medal, he was a fighter. And I got really interested in fighting when I was living with him. And so I was home and my buddy says, hey man, I bet I can beat you up now. And I said, what? Like, I'm coming off the bobsled team. I'm all yoked up. I'm like, dude, you're not beating up anybody. Well, we went in his backyard. Eric, guess what happened? He beat me up, right?
He beat you up, yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm like cut up. I'm scratched up. I'm like, what's going on here? And he goes, hey, man, you know those Gracie guys? Those Gracie guys that like you see in UFC? And this was in the 1990s still. It's just starting. He said, one of those guys just moved to Manhattan. I'm going. And I said to him, man, if you're going, then I'm going.
I'm going.
And I started going. Renzo Gracie took a liking to me. And then one day he approached me. He said, hey, I know you're this fitness guy. How about you train all our guys for physical conditioning, and we'll train you, and you'll travel around the world and go on the greatest adventures. What do you say? Right? And what do you say? And see, most people say, "Oh, you said yes, right?" And yeah, I said yes. But guys, first thing was about passion, right?
Yeah.
Are you chasing your passion? The next one is, hey, do you say yes to every opportunity that happens? And most people don't.
Right.
Now, what gets interesting there is then I get involved with a guy named Bill Parisi, who started the Parisi Speed School. We eventually, man, I quit my job as a therapist. I wanted to just be in sports performance, and this became one of the greatest platforms that I have ever been part of, where I got to again travel the world, work with the greatest sports teams and greatest athletes. But what's really interesting is I also had to get involved in sales and marketing and writing. Now, speaking of that, I've never told the story like this. So I started writing articles for Gracie magazine 20 something years ago, articles week after week after week. And then I made those articles into a book.
Mm-hmm.
I called it Training for Warriors. And here's what's crazy about it. That book was a self-published book, did it myself, and it started to sell so well that I got a call one day. I get a call, right? As you can see, my dog's going to decide to bark now. So I get a
Your
call.
dog called you.
Yeah. So I get a call from HarperCollins Publishers, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come and meet with us?" I don't know what it's about. And I go there, and they have that book sitting on their desk. And the dude goes, "Hey, man, you want to do this thing for real?"
Yeah.
And I stepped outside. And I called my buddy who was a sports agent. I don't even have an agent or anything. I go, "Dude, they want to give me a contract. They want to give me an advance. What do I do?" And you know what he said? He said, "What do? You sign it. You're nobody, man. Do it."
Exactly.
And that led to this one, which was the real version. I mean, full color, insane. And this is what I call became my passport. This one went around the world, tons of different languages, over 100,000 copies sold, which, as we know in books, that is a big, big deal.
Big
And
number.
I started to get invites all over the world to come and speak. I got invites to come and present. I got signed to the second book deal, which then they sent me all around the world to dozens of countries to write that. And then that one went so big, so I got the third book deal, and that one went bigger and bigger. And then a few years ago, when all this stuff is happening, and I also built a company called Training for Words, and you'll hear about all these things. When COVID hit, I was losing my mind. If anybody has noticed by now, I am an extrovert. I like to be around people. I like to be out there. I am fired up out of my mind. And I'm the worst guy you lock in his basement and have a global pandemic.
Right.
And I was losing my mind. I couldn't speak. I couldn't share. I couldn't impact all the people with the stuff that I was now passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat, you ready for this? My kid is sitting there, and their grandparents gave her this little piano, like a electric piano. And I said, "You're supposed to be playing that piano. Why don't you ever play the piano?" You know what she said? She said, "Well, you always talk about writing that book you're going to write about coaching, and you never did it." Well, dude, I ripped my laptop out, flip it open, and I just started writing. I went on a tirade. I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And then one day I scream when I hit the final end stop, the final period. I scream out. My wife comes running in and she goes, "What happened?" And I said, "I just wrote something really awesome. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's great."
Yeah.
And I sent it to Wiley Publishing, who published John Gordon's books, who I really liked. And within 2 days, the editor calls back. He's like, "Dude, we got to have it. And we're going to fast track it too." And that led to a book called Coach to Coach, which is coming up on 20,000 copies sold. And that one went so great. Then they let me write the sequel, High 10. And both of these guys, it's about 400 and something pages between them. That was my first foray into it. Those, I guess you would categorize as motivation, but it's still fiction,
Sure.
right? And then I got so into it, then something crazy happened, which led to this one.
So did that.
That buddy of mine that we talked about, the bobsled guy, he got cancer for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was staying in New York City, getting treated there. That wasn't where he was from. And I would go up to see him, and man, he was suffering. It lost 100 pounds going through chemo, radiation. They're taking him to everything. He was starving himself to death to try to kill this thing. And I was really worried my friend wasn't going to make it. Mm-hmm. And one day we were sitting in this place called the Hope Lodge, and there was a library. And he said, "Hey man, you're such a reader. You read like a maniac. Why don't you, pick me out a book to read? I'm losing my mind." And I said, "Man, instead of reading a book. Why don't I write it? Why don't I write this book that I always, like you're this hero of mine. Why don't I just finally write the book that's been sitting inside of me forever?
Mhm.
And every week I would send chapters. He was enjoying it. He was in it. He beats cancer, and he's now the head coach of the Jamaican bobsled team,
Jamaican.
which the
Yeah.
Olympics are this year. And guys, you can't make this up, right? Like I don't know what part people are gonna be like. What is he out of his mind? And get this. So now I have it done. I got the manuscript done. It took a year and a half, 2 years almost to write.
Right.
Then I open up the stock exchange in New York City because I'm cornering UFC. Yeah, it's the truth. I'm with Frank Yeager and Jim Miller, two of the greatest UFC fighters in history. And that day I was like, man, I'm on fire here. I'm going to do something. And I called a publishing house in New York. They told me no. But you know what I said? I didn't take no. I said, well, do you got a name of somebody that might say yes? And the guy kept saying no, no, no. And then finally I said, come on, man, you don't know somebody? And he said, well, I know one person. I'll give you one intro. And that one intro led to the guy that bought the book. And now the book comes out on June 3rd. And I couldn't be more excited because it's my first shot at that. But another part of it is it's during the process. My mother recently passed away, and her entire career was devoted to, she created a business in the 80s when no one did this, before there was ever a pink ribbon, only for women with cancer.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty bummed that she will never get to hold it in her hand. But what I did commit to is for every pre-sale of the book, and I may even say sale of the book. So if you listen to this after it and you still buy it, I'm going to donate $1 of my own money to the Hope Lodge, which helped my friend survive, but is sponsored by the American Cancer Society, which was also the organization that sponsored my mom. So I don't know how fast I did that. I hope I did it, sort of cool. But I
There's
tried to drop a lot of nuggets in there because there were so many other things. But hey, guys, I was also a speed coach for the New York Giants. Hey, I'm the town track coach right now. I'm a black belt in judo, brown belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Hey, behind me right there, that's 2 Guinness World Records. Those do not come easy. So there's a whole lot of things we could talk about, but I wanted to give you the writer
yeah.
journey as well, and hopefully everybody got a little of that.
Well, I love how you said that because I think so many people, one of the biggest obstacles a writer has, getting a first draft done is a huge obstacle. A lot of people never get to that point. They get to that point, they don't know what to do with it. Of course, they'll normally do their research and go, okay, I got to get an agent or I got to get a small publisher, or they might go down the path of they want to self-publish. But when they're going the path of the traditional publishing, the amount of people that are going to say no just like immobilizes people. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to and I try to tell this to people and they don't believe it all the time. It's like you talk to even the big name authors. If you ever get to know them, I've gotten to know some of them. They didn't get the first time they went to an agent, and the first time even that agent then maybe signed them and then pitched the book to Simon and Schuster or whatever. The chance of that being a one time, like first agent says yes and the first publisher says yes, is so small.
No, it's
You have to
astronomical.
keep pushing. You have
Well,
to
and
keep pushing for it.
and and guys, hopefully everybody hears that. Like one thing about me, I usually don't have a plan B. There's just like plan A, which stands for aggressive, and I try
Yeah.
to figure it out. But hey, Eric knows this, guys. I queried like 50 agents, and I already had the deal, and no one even wrote me back.
Yeah.
And hey, and man, and I'll tell you this: if that one guy, if I didn't keep staying on it, and I got that one name, there would not be a book because I didn't have, then there was no other plan. I wouldn't have even
Yeah.
known what to do with it. But I will say this, what that says is, hey, the guy really liked it too. So guys, for everybody listening, if you are a writer, hey, they're gonna vet you on your skill. And I have done the work. I have paid my dues in the craft. I tried to really produce something that stands up in an incredible field that I love, like because I just read so much and I wanted to play in that space. And but you got to have the goods too, is what I'm saying. And because remember, I sent the guy the manuscript. That didn't mean anything was going to happen
Right.
either until he really said he liked it. So
Exactly.
it's but it is. But here's the part, right? Rejection shouldn't get you down. Let it get you excited, right? Like it's not, the answer's not no. It's just not yet.
Yep.
And I don't know. It was once I set my brain on it, I wasn't gonna stop
Yep.
till something happened with it. But there was this kind of noble quest behind it, but either with my buddy and my mom. But now, hey, why, for everybody listening, why are we doing this podcast? Because now I got to get the word out. Now's the hard part. Like
Yeah.
writing is easy, meaning the writing, easy. Getting it either published or something. It's doable now, but still super hard. But then selling it.
Selling it's the
Maybe
hard part.
Eric, you could tell, Eric, you tell everybody about that one.
Everyone has heard me bitch and moan about that a lot on this podcast, I'm sure. So, but I wanted to focus real quick before we leave that thing because and I've told this story, I'm sure, earlier on in the podcast, is the rejection and all that. So years ago, when I was trying to get my first books, get an agent, I went through couple years, two books. Finally, it was book four, The Body Man, that got that. But even before that happened, I was interacting with a lot of authors. Yes, thank you. There's a copy of it. But I was interacting with a lot of authors, and I was able to interact with some big name authors, and they were really kind to me. And one of them, and I mentioned in our hike, was Brad Meltzer. So Brad Meltzer was one of these people that just kind of gave me the attention and gave me some advice and all that. And I went to one of his events. I believe it was down in Atlanta in 2019, and he was telling his story of how he got published. And as he was getting kind of the crux of it, he said the key to it is don't let anyone tell you no. And there's 400 people in this auditorium, and I swear to God, he looked at me. I even nudged the guy next to me and said, he's talking to me. And the guy thought I was crazy. And so I wait to the end. All these people want to get Brad's autograph, but I wanted to talk to him. And I told him I would wait till after, anyways. I talked to him ahead of time. So I wait like an hour and a half till the back of the line, and he sees me from like 10 people away coming through the line. And he's like, get over here and give me a hug. So I give him a hug, and he goes, I was talking to you. I said, I know you were talking to me. I told the guy next to me you were talking to me, because that's the thing that you mentally have to get over as an author is a lot of people are going to tell you no. Okay, that's the wrong person for you. Find the
And
person that says yes.
another nugget that's there too, and this is important for everybody because I've asked Eric a lot about this because I'm learning a lot about the space now.
Yeah,
And here's another one, which it would be so easy to glaze over. Uh, Eric was in the room. Did you hear what he said? He's like, "Hey, I went to the event
right.
in Atlanta. Then I get this miraculous message that then you probably acted on, that then carried you forward. Here's the part. Now imagine you don't go. Now
Yeah,
imagine you're not there. Now imagine you never built the relationship at first.
correct.
So for everybody listening, what I always like to say is there is a button pusher out there. And what I define that as is there's somebody that could push the button that could get you the thing that you want, or to at least the next step or the next
Correct.
stage. But if you're never in the room, if you never go to the event, if you never network, if you never meet them, like
Yeah,
that, they're not going to come knocking on your door, right?
nobody
Like,
will.
yeah, like I know
Nobody
that
will.
one. And Eric's helping me out where I know if I just sit back and June 3rd comes and Blood Feud comes out, nothing will happen
Right.
until I start screaming it from the rooftops, getting other people to talk about it, and I got to be in the room. So I'm planning on going to a number of different events. I'm going to hold events. I've been going to bookstores left and right, introducing myself. Hey, when can we do an event here?
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's the other funny part. And they've all, like you said, everybody's so awesome because they need that too. Like that only helps
Oh
everybody.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I say the one for Brad too because, and I don't want to turn the camera. You'll see my messy room. This is the beautiful part. It's on the wall. I have a framed piece of paper that says, "quote Don't let anyone tell you no." Brad signed it. He even said on the bottom, "Eric, I can't wait for your book." And I got that from him, and I framed it. Do I look at it every day of my life? No. But have I looked at it probably hundreds of times since 2019? Yes. And it's my motivation to say, you know what? Okay, this didn't work out. That's not happening. I believe in what I'm doing, so I'm going to keep pushing. And even Brad's told me over the years, because, you can look at Brad's success and someone that's done TV shows, fiction, nonfiction, children's books, and most authors would say, well, Brad's made it. Yeah, Brad's told me privately, guess what? It never ends. You
Yeah.
never get to that spot where you go, okay, I can just sit back and the machine will take care of me. Everything will just be fine. No, the hustle always remains. If you want to get your books out there, guess what? You are your best advocate to get that book out there, and you have to be out there.
Well, and when we were on our hike, remember, so guys, yeah, I'm still a little sore because Eric just had me doing tons and tons of push-ups. You'll probably see,
Yeah.
maybe you saw the video that got you on this podcast with one of those, but we were talking about during it this idea because we were up climbing a mountain,
Hmm.
and one of the things was it's about memories, it's about moments, it's not just about mountains.
Right.
And what we meant with that was, for instance, this book. it's going to come out, right? So June 3rd, it releases, boom, it's there. It's this multiple year project. And now it got there and feels like everything you were driving towards as if it's the end. And what I learned in the martial arts, just like I learned with books, that's not the end. That's just the beginning,
Right.
right? And you got to enjoy every step along the way. I think we make this mistake. We set these goals and we only try to think we can celebrate at either the beginning or the end. But really, when I look back now, it was the middle that mattered the most, right? And it's kind of true. Here, watch this. Like, so with a book, it's not the beginning or the end, it's the middle. It's the middle of the book that's the important part. Hey,
Exactly.
somebody's gravestone, right? Like, it's not the beginning or the end that we celebrate, it's that little
It's the
dash.
dash. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same idea what we're talking about, those rejections. That's what makes the story great. Like, hey, Stephen King, hundreds of rejections. His wife throws a thing in the garbage. Dr. Seuss, hundreds of rejections. J.K. Rowling, hundreds of rejections. Like, the list is endless.
Right.
And yet they probably look back and that was when it was probably real fun. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? When you were grinding. So for everybody listening, if you are a author out there, hey, I also don't want you to say, "Oh, look at you, he's done this and he always keeps getting these deals." No, hey, I promise. Not only have I done the work, but man, I have done everything to put myself in the right place at the right time to make that thing happen. We talked about it. It's not lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe in luck. Like we talked about, was Stephen King lucky? And it's like, nah, that dude was writing for like 20 years before that
Right.
already. And it's this combo of all of it just happening, and then people call it luck, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it happens that someone like out of college, or even someone younger, someone in adolescence writes a book and it catches on, and it has this massive life. No, normally it's someone that might go to college, might not. They start a career, they have a family. Writing becomes something that it's been a part. Every author I talk to is like, when did you start writing? I've never had a person say, oh, I started writing a week before, I then sat
Yeah,
down
before
and
my best
started
friend.
this book. They'll talk about like all the books that they wrote that are just sitting on a desk, sitting in a desk somewhere, sitting on a.
Yeah.
I have a. And I've said it many times, and people are sick of hearing it. I have a folder that's on the computer we're talking to called books, and it's all either The Body Man and Breach of Trust and Supreme Justice, my next book, and a couple books that I still haven't have it out yet. Well, that's books. I have old book folder. An old book is just folder after folder of all these projects I started, and there was one consistency to it. And listen up close. I never finished any of them. That was the consistency, but that got me working towards that
And
goal. I want to finish
all
a
of
book.
those lead to the next one. And it's funny you say that. Like, hey guys, for everybody listening, James Patterson, you can't sell more books than that guy. That guy was a marketing guy for decades, and then wrote Thomas Berryman Affair. That took off, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden he became what he was. So that's also the thing. It's never too late, right? Which I think is really interesting. But then another one we talked about, and I've got him right up on my shelf. I don't know if everybody has seen recently. There was a book called Dragon Teeth by Michael Crichton. Now there's another one, Eruption by Michael Crichton, which was
Corruption, yeah.
written by Patterson.
Right.
And guys, they keep finding all of his old manuscripts that were never completed, or the stuff that he
Yep.
did. But all of that was working on the craft. All of that was doing your things,
Yep.
right? Like, for instance, I chainsaw carve. That's another one for everybody listening. So I think I've always been an artist. I try to like, watch. I'll show you. Yeah, well, I could see about turning the computer. Let's see. So if you see that lion right
Yeah,
there,
absolutely.
that one, see the bear right
Yep.
there. I did that one. And there are a few others that I keep in the house that I love, right?
Mhm.
But here's what's interesting about it. You don't see the 50 of them that, like, I never finished, that they just weren't going where I wanted, or
Right.
I got bored with it and I moved on to the thing. But every one of those was carving my skills. Every one of them was sharpening the saw
Yep.
to then when I could do something really, really cool that's worthy of everybody saying
Yep.
wow. So that's the other part too. Like, you just got to put in the work,
Yeah.
right?
So what's the athlete thing they say? 10,000 hours to kind of
Yeah.
master something
Well, and it
normally?
wasn't even athletes. It originally started with violinists, right?
Okay.
And it was Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell, that exposed it again. But
Hmm.
it is interesting that there is sometimes some arguments about it, like, is it true or not? But I will say this:
Sure.
if I write for 100 hours and you write for 10,000, you're going to probably be a better writer, right? Like,
Correct.
hey guys, it's going back to Stephen King, the King, the legend has it. I remember seeing an interview and he's doing this interview and they said, "Well, do you really write every day?" And he goes, "Well, I don't write on like New Year's and Christmas and 4th of July." And then they moved on. And then the interview went so great. At the end of the interview, he goes, "Hey, I gotta step back and I gotta say I lied during that interview about something." And they were like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I write on those days too." Right. And the whole thing is that dude,
Yeah.
how can you catch him? When you read
Right.
his stuff, like you're just like, "Oh my God, it's just so good." And instead of saying, "How does he do it?" We know how he does it, but can you put your butt in that chair for as
Exactly.
many hours and then for the next 50 years,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
that kind
especially for a writer, that's what you have to do versus like talking about the time you have to put in versus take Michael Jordan for an example. Michael Jordan wasn't a Netflix watching couch potato 21-year-old who got up, walked out the door, took a basketball and went swish. No, that dude played so much ball and that was his passion, that was his life, and he became pretty much arguably the best one to ever play it. He didn't do that because he slacked off or
Yeah,
I'll get to
look
that
for
tomorrow.
shortcuts. Yeah, stuff like
No,
that. Yeah, you got to do the hard work,
you
right?
do.
And that is hey, the writing part, that is what I enjoy, but it is also scary. I'll be honest, like
Sure.
some days it was not as it was never a slog, but you feel like when you're looking down the road and man, this book's got to be 80,000 or 85,000 words and I have 2,000.
Right.
It can be daunting,
Yeah.
right?
And the thing I always go back to that when I'm talking to people is like the old adage of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you look at the big thing, big picture, and when you start off and you look and you go, I got to have 85,000 words. If I wrote 1,000 words a day, which is a decent amount of words,
Yeah, three
especially if you have a
months. I'm doing
family and
that
you have
every day for
a
3 months.
job,
Yeah.
yeah, you're doing that for a long time. So the commitment level there, and for a lot of people, I think that's what scares them off, is they go, I don't have the time. And it's like, so for me, my story, and I mentioned before in the podcast, is I finished my first book in 2014. So when I was mentally getting myself ready to do that, I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? I have a wife, I have two little kids, I have a full-time job. I'm going to have to give something up to get something. And for me, it was television. And I was a big television person. I watched a lot of television in my free time, at night, kids go to bed. Well, once the kids went to bed for basically for the better part of 90 days, I didn't watch television 6 nights a week at all. All I did was write. At 10 o'clock at night, I sat my butt on the couch and I started writing until much later than I should have because I had to be up for my job at 8:30 in the morning, starting my corporate job. But that's how the process, had to happen so that I could have that finished book so that it could get rejected by agents and still sit on a hard drive and not be published. Uh, 11 years later now. It's 11 years this year, which is crazy. So,
Well, and an interesting quote, and we talked about this too. I read it and it was, I have chased Hemingway's Ghost, right? Like every
yeah.
year I do read Old Man in the Sea. My dad was a big fishing guy. I go down to Key West. I have sat in his house. I have sat right by the typewriter. I've been to the place, the restaurant where they would all hang out in Paris. And I've read, everything that I get my hands on him about actually writing, so not even his writing anymore, but what he wrote about life. And one of the really cool quotes, it was just writers got to write,
Yeah.
and how I really interpreted that one is, man, if it's like inside of you, it's just going to happen. Like you and I had talked about like
Mhm.
working out, different things. Like, guys, that's what I do. Like, so instead of writers got to write, it's almost like athletes got to train. Like, that's just me. Like, there's no way, like, you would be hurting me by taking it away from me, not making me do it.
Right.
Right. And,
Exactly.
and I'll say though, the writing is still harder than that for me. Right. Like,
Interesting.
whereas I bet you a Stephen King, his working out is writing like to what my working out is or
Yeah.
something, that is a question for everybody listening too. It's like, hey, if it's inside of you and it has to come out and like you couldn't see yourself spending your way any other way, then you are a writer, right?
Mhm.
And you should be doing it, and it's in your blood, right? And
Well, and it comes with so much. I think what happens, and you can talk to this because you've interacted with some extremely accomplished athletes and UFC and all that, is so often we always look at the top 1%. And I think our brain tricks us and says, well, if I don't get to be that, then I'm somehow a failure,
yeah,
which is 100% not the truth. It would be good if you get to that. But if that's the only goal you have, you might be a very disappointed
Yeah,
person. So,
and it doesn't make sense, and I guess that's the hard part too, right? Is everybody's got to be a beginner. You got to be a beginner at
right,
first. Nobody wants to do that, right? Like, hey, obviously from my martial arts background, the hardest time in the world is when you start, right? Because
correct.
you're not good, and
You're
almost
get, you're getting
every
your
day,
ass kicked a
yeah, and every
lot.
day you just get reminded you're not good. And even when you start getting better, you feel worse.
Right.
It's almost unreal. And then just something happens and it clicks. And then it's not why you're doing it anymore, right? Like, so when I really pursued judo, at first it's all about you want a belt, or it's all about you want uh, legitimacy or notoriety or something. And I can remember then it was like a decade and plus in, and I just wanted to be in there. That's where I wanted to be. I just loved doing it. And it was funny. My sensei, who was an Olympian, one day he forgot his belt, and he had like what's called a coral belt. It was like red and white. It's so, if you've had a black belt for so long, there's another one that you eventually get.
Interesting. Okay.
And, well, actually, and he was it so long, you eventually get a red one, then you get the red and coral one. But one day he didn't have his stuff, so he just puts a white belt on. And I was like, his name is Tamok. And I said, Tamok, what are you doing? Like, because I was still in the pursuit of someday hoping to be a black belt.
Sure.
And he was like, dude, like, I could care, the belt around my waist doesn't say what I am or what
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, that's not how I measure myself. And I remember that day going back and being like, I want to be like him. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, I use the word, he transcended it, right? Like,
Yep.
he transcended the belt. He wasn't there to impress anybody. He was there because he loved it and what it was about, right? And that's it. I'll even say this is now like my black belt, right? Like, I
Yep.
wanted to prove I could write in this space. I wanted to put a book in my dad's hand because he's a lover of this genre. And
Hmm.
at the same time, it was never, yeah, it isn't like to say I have a book. I've already got books, or it wasn't to,
Yeah.
oh, look at me or look what I'm doing. I want somebody to enjoy the story, right? And
Right.
like, and go for a ride. And that's what's going to get me really excited about it. So I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm getting better at that, right? Like,
Mhm.
so for everybody listening, like, what do you got to transcend so that you just don't care what anybody else thinks, or you're not worried which, speaking of that, hey, we talked about it. You know what else I know is coming, and I'm used to now. We talked about reviews, or
Yeah.
what people say, and oftentimes people like to be negative with a negative bias much more than they like to be positive.
Correct.
I'll tell you what, my skin is thick because I'm going to be ready for it this time.
Yeah. Well, and again, the negative reviews are there and people have their opinion. I stick to the adage of you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But I get people like to be critical and yeah, if anything, and those have never bothered me. I haven't had a lot of them, but I have definitely had a handful and I've looked at a few of them for sure. I can't say I've ignored them, but when I've read them, I've normally, it's not ruined my day. It's not made me go, oh my goodness, I shouldn't be doing this because I look at the eight, like for the Body Man just crossed 800 ratings. I think this weekend or right before, maybe before this weekend when we went hiking. Well, there's a lot of like, I think it's like 4.6 out of 5 stars or 4.4 out of 5 stars, whatever it is. Okay, a lot more people like the book
Right.
than have a negative spin on it. So for every person that doesn't like it, hey, it's subjective. I get it. You don't like it. But you can then look at it and go, well, a lot of people do like it, so I must have done something right. So
Or
there's always that.
it's like our natural tendency to, you want to make everybody happy, right? And that's that old line. If you want to be
Nah,
unhappy,
nah, screw them
be
all.
happy, try to be happy. Well, here's a great example. So this one they sent me around the world. This was like a couple $100,000 project. I went to Brazil and trained jujitsu. I went to Japan and trained judo. I went to Russia, trained sambo. I went to England for boxing. I went to Holland for kickboxing, Thailand for Thai boxing, University of Iowa for wrestling. I'm leaving some out, but ultimately it was it took so much planning, so much travel, so much time, then all the writing, then all the stuff.
Yeah.
And I just remember it came out, and then there was this one person who's like, oh yeah, what's this, you left out this thing, and it looks like you did this in like a week. And I was like, what? Like, it was almost, I just couldn't let go of it.
Yeah.
I was so close to writing like, dear armchair warrior,
Right.
here's the place we can go meet and let's discuss it, in person. But I did
Have you
not.
ever heard of dueling? Aaron Barr
Yeah,
did it back in,
yeah,
would you
yeah.
like to meet up with me?
What part of the fighting stuff didn't you get in that
Yeah.
book?
If
but
you have an ass, I can kick it. Meet up with me. Come on.
but ultimately it was, I think this is the hardest part too, is we put our art out there, and we want to be creative and and we did our best, right? Like we did our
Right.
best to put it out there. Like when I read, right? Just like when I go speak, because I present around the world, when
Hmm.
I go speak, somebody gave me this great advice. They said, hey, remember, everybody out there wants you to be great. They don't want to see a lousy presentation. They're rooting for you. They want you to be great. So then I just go up there and try to be great. And that's what I think. Like when you gave me your book, which guys, I just got it. So I will be reading it. And I'm going to be reading it like rooting for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to read it like, oh, let me tear it up. Ooh, let me see
Yeah.
what he missed. Ooh, whatever. And I just think it's a mentality for life, right? Like, so maybe that's a little cool piece of advice for everybody listening to is like, you're going to do way better in life cheering everybody on than
Hmm.
ripping them all down.
Yeah.
And I meet a lot more people that rip people down than get excited about somebody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Because I'm a coach, I have my kids all work on that a lot.
Hmm.
Like what I always say is, hey, if somebody's doing something, cheer them on, and if somebody needs something, cheer them up,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I don't see enough of that, and so
Yeah.
that's why I'm worried. Is I know there's going to be just a lot of those people because I'm playing in a space I was never in.
Sure.
There's going to be somebody that just read the latest Stephen King. Yeah, he is way ahead of me. My book's probably not going to be as good as that, But hey, but I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, but yes and no though, because you got to remember too. There's so many people out there that have different tastes. So just again, for people that are struggling or people are like, just you gotta put in the work and get some. If it's writing or if it's fitness or whatever your thing is that interests you, pursue it. Pursue it with what you have. Pursue it with some of your free time. Cut out watching Netflix for an hour a night. And this is and tell you, I say this all the time when I'm talking about stuff. When I'm opening my mouth, I'm not chastising anyone. I am me. I'm normally pointing it back to myself where I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get off my ass a lot of times and do more workouts versus watch Netflix or do that. Or I got so many books in my head. Why can't I get all these books done? Well, because you're wasting too much time. And sometimes you do need to decompress and you need to kind of back off because you just need to let your mind rest. You need to entertain yourself.
Well,
That's good.
and there's great ideas that come from that stuff, right? Like
Sure.
how we said, you can only write what you know,
Right.
and we are a combo of hey the movies we saw or the shows that we
Correct.
watch and there are great ideas, plot twists,
Oh
different
yeah.
stuff
Oh,
where you see
absolutely.
how they do it. So yes, don't beat yourself up too much, but
No, totally not.
what I heard in there and everybody should listen to is again, I think what I started this off with was chasing your passion.
Yep.
And I just meet so many people that spend most of their time doing something they don't like to spend a little bit of time on the thing that they are passionate about.
Right.
And my big advice, I got this from a mentor of mine a long time ago. You'll love this one. Don't get good at stuff you don't love, man. Like
Hmm.
most people spend all their time getting a degree in something they don't like. And then they go to this job they don't really like and they get better and better and better at that job until they're like, well, I can't leave this job. This is what I'm good at. I really
Right.
like this, but I won't do it. And maybe that's the thing, right? Like maybe this will be because this is not a motivation book. This is an action thriller. This thing rips. And like, guys, I try to shock and take you inside my head and
Hmm.
my experience with violence and combat. But the whole thing, if it can inspire you, it's that I am passionate about writing and those things, and that's where I'm pushing my life towards, right? And
Hmm.
I'm giving things up that I was really great at, but that maybe I'm not as passionate about.
Yeah.
You know what? It's very liberating. The
Right.
hardest part is jumping out of a plane. Once you're out, yeah, we talked about skydiving,
We
remember?
talked about it.
Once you're out, it's easy. You gotta make that leap.
When I
And
go to Dubai in a few years, I'm gonna drag Martin along with me and be like, "Come on, bro. You tangled with the Gracie brothers. You can jump out of a plane with me in Dubai. Come on."
yeah, we talked about that. Like that's one thing, guys. I have, I my kids all have it on their list. Yeah, so I have four daughters for everybody listening, and which we talked about. I think is cosmic because it evens out my life because most of my life has been spent doing really man things,
Right.
teaching you teaching the craziest warriors how to be even nastier. Where then I come home and get humbled. You know, my
Those five women put you in your
uh,
place.
they say that's their job. They're like, yeah, our job is to like keep you grounded and remind you, where you're at. I'm like, oh my god. And even our dog, the dog that was barking, girl, two cats, girls. I mean, it's a house of estrogen.
House of estrogen. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Well, hey, let's dive into Blood Feud. I think we got your background figured out. People can, if they paid attention to this interview, you haven't been BSing them, so you've got the background to write a really good thriller.
Yeah.
So tell the audience a little bit more about what you actually wrote in
All
this
right.
thing.
Yeah, because I don't want to. Yeah, it's funny because this is
Don't give
one of
away too
the,
much.
yeah, this is one of the original interviews I'm ever doing about it, and I have not really given away. But here's what I will say. Yeah, or and you coach me through this. Um, it's about it. It's a hero's journey, but this guy's an anti-hero. He
Hmm.
does not want to be a hero. Yeah, maybe this would be good because this is how I got the deal. Remember, this was the deal. When I
Hmm.
talked to that publisher, he goes, "Oh, let me guess. Is he an ex-CIA guy? Is he an ex-detective? Is he a former military guy? Is he a super spy and he kills everybody?" And I said, "No,
No.
my guy's none of those things. My guy's a regular guy. He just kills all of those guys because he's a bad." And you know what he said? He goes, "Now I'm listening.
Now I'm listening. Yeah, exactly.
I'm listening." And that it is interesting that I think I only can write what I know. Guys, I was none of those. I was not in the CIA. I was not a this or that or this. Doesn't mean you can't write about it, but I wasn't comfortable because I don't know enough. And maybe I was lazy. I didn't want to do the research, but I could write about a former athlete, badass fighter that somebody kicked the hornet's nest and pissed him off. And he is not, and he is somebody that has a code that you don't do that to him without consequences. And that is kind of how the book starts.
Hmm.
And it turns into a real kind of conspiracy survival book where I think it's very timely with things that are happening not only in politics, but also in science.
Hmm.
There's a real edge to that. So again, if you do like, here's how I describe it. You like this one. If you like David Baldacci or Crichton, right? If you like Michael Crichton or Baldacci, and they had a book baby with Chuck Palahniuk, if you know who he is from Fight Club fame, that would be Blood Feud, right? Like that's what this is because it's got the plot and kind of the cool storylines and the way that it would go of a Baldacci, but
Hmm.
they're tame, right? Like
Yeah.
even Crichton, tame. Whereas Palahniuk is not tame and just takes you somewhere you never been. I want it to be both because all three of those guys, I love those
Yeah.
writers. Like I like all their books. And this book takes place first in New York, where some things happen in part one. But then, man, this guy gets deep into a lot of trouble that he cannot get out of
Hmm.
without help. And what's very interesting is the person that needs to help is his not only worst enemy, but the worst people on earth. I don't even want to say who it is.
Not the
And
nice people.
yeah, and the coolest plot twist of it all is that these guys, who are the most horrific guys, are going to be the heroes when this
Right.
thing comes through. But ultimately, yeah, I don't know. Am I doing an okay job?
You're doing no.
I don't
There's no
want to
wrong
give,
answer in
yeah,
this.
yeah, because I don't want to give it away.
No, I know.
And then, yeah, because then you kind of know what's coming. Because guys, this idea took me years and years and years to
Yeah.
figure out, and in this story. So I don't want to
Well,
just spit it out there. But
the
if
other
you,
thing for people that are watching or listening, what they can do is they can go to Amazon and they can go click on the book, and
yeah, there's a
I've got it.
description there.
There's a great description there that doesn't give away too much, but it gives enough to make people go, "I want to
Yeah,
know what happens with
yeah.
this."
So that's there. And maybe we'll say this now because we did say, and man, I already went over the half hour mark.
Oh, you're
But
good.
and what I said was a little Easter egg. So guys, one of the things is I'm donating money for every order in my mom's name to the Hope Lodge, which is where I originated the idea to do this with my
Hmm.
friend. Uh, if you order it, right? A lot of people sometimes say, "Oh man, can I get a signed copy?" And it always made it hard. So what I like to always do is a book plate. So I am getting a super creative, one of a kind killer blood feud book plate, which I will then sign and send to you. So if you order it, right after you've listened to this, if you order it and you send me the receipt from Amazon that you bought it to mrooney at trainingforwarriors.com, if you send me that at mrooney, my name, at trainingforwarriors.com, if you send me a picture of the receipt, I'll send you the book plate signed. I will send you the first we said, Eric said three. I'll send you 3 to 5. You can even write me what you want. 3 to 5 chapters of the next book because it's already done. And you can actually give me some advice or help me out or see what you think,
Yep.
right? Because that's coming. And then we're going to do one lucky winner gets a cameo appearance. So your name will go somewhere in book 2 if you do order that. So that one, I think, hey, I'm trying to make the deal as sweet as possible. But if nothing else, if you like action thrillers, you want to just read a killer story, it's there already. But I'm going to do all those. But the only way you get those things is if you write me with the receipt at mrooney at trainingforwarriors.com.
Well, one thing I think that sets you apart, you obviously we've talked about some big names in the course of this discussion, and the cool thing I love about meeting you and talking through your background and stuff, and I'm one of these people that's not this, is so many writers have really great imaginations, which is wonderful. You need to have them, but their background is like me. I'm in finance, and I've had even a couple people over the years say, "Really, you really are in finance?" Like, no, I'm really in finance. You could come work with me. My desk's over here. I've been working from home for 17 and a half years with corporate America. So I don't have a Secret Service background. I don't have an FBI, CIA. And if I really did, and I'm lying, I'd have to kill you anyways. So let's just go with the fact that I'm a finance
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
But
Just say he's finance.
you can walk the walk and talk the talk because not saying everything in the book you've done, but you've experienced the fighting. You've experienced, and especially talking about your main character
Yeah.
with Kane. That's a real person. I mean, that's based on someone you really know. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that for
Yeah.
the audience because
Well,
I think that's so because you I know he survived this horrible thing called cancer, but you honor him and
yeah.
what he's done by taking some of his experiences and fictionalizing them, which I think is, to me, as a reader and as a writer himself, I think it's always cool to put truth in your book, that stuff that
Well,
really happens.
well, here's the interesting thing, right? For everybody listening. Like what I hinted earlier, a writer can only write what he or she knows, right? Like no matter what, like meaning what I'm saying is, even if you're not an FBI person, but you're writing about the FBI, you have to go research it. You
You
have to
have to
learn
do,
it.
yeah.
You have to know it, right? Like you
Or
have to,
those reviews are going to be really negative when people
yeah.
call you out.
Well, and just meaning, so whatever's in there, it can only come out if it's in there.
Yeah,
And me, I'm very visceral, like kinesthetic, like again, like I had said, like, hey guys, I put my hands on a lot of people.
yeah.
You can interpret what that means or not. And so that comes out in the book, and I want you to almost feel it, what that feels like, right? Like I have competed, I have fought, and so have so many of my friends. And everything in the book, yeah, like my buddy was going through cancer. So there's a theme of that in there.
Hmm.
Hey, the places that are in the book are places that I either was, have been, have lived, and in the future novels, it's going to take you to all these countries that I went to too. And I have had some crazy experiences. Man, I almost died in Russia. I was held at gunpoint in Brazil. Like there's stuff that's
Yeah,
going
you
to
told me not to go to Brazil by
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Good
yeah.
job.
There's going to be stuff that comes out in the future works too that, somebody might be like, oh my God, like, how did you come up with this? And it's like, dude, I like, what did they say? Fact is stranger than fiction,
Truth
where
is stranger than fiction. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
it's almost, but yeah, I do pay homage to my friend where this is a guy that I lived with for years. Hey,
Mhm.
I feel like I've done a lot of stuff. This guy always, I felt like outdid me, like I'll make a US team, he wins an Olympic medal, right? Like
Right.
I'll play at collegiate sports, he'll play professional sports. I'll compete at a high level in combat, but like he went to a way higher level in combat.
Yeah.
And so it was almost, and I was really afraid, right? I was afraid for him. And it was really interesting that like the one way I felt like I could help was with this skill that I have, like to
Hmm.
write and to keep him busy and keep his mind going, but also, I just always loved the stories. Like this guy was such a great storyteller too, right? And yeah, like you said, and then just fictionalize a lot of it, but yet in a weird way, this dude was always my hero. So it's like Now, yeah, that was, remember I said that. I said, guys, one of the things when I read books, one of the parts that sometimes gets me is whenever I'm reading these books, I I wish I want to be the hero. Like I
Yeah.
want the author to write it in a way that I'm like, damn, I want to be that guy. I wish I was that guy.
Right.
And I don't always get that,
Yeah.
right? Whereas this guy, like you said, his name is Lee Kane. Guys, I believe like here's the line I said. I wrote this. I want every dude to want to be him and every girl to want to be with him. Right? Like that is the way that I kind of wrote this thing because that's how I like I don't know like what I imagine and almost like 80s action hero if that's
Mhm.
resonating with anybody. I don't feel like we have that person anymore. Like that's when I
Yeah.
grew up. That's what I love. That's what I
Right.
cut my teeth on. I want somebody for our generation to have that new one, right? But I don't want them to be this guy is flawed, right? Like, like the
Yeah.
hardest thing is this character was very hard to write because for every way that he's cool, there's a lot of things, man, you wouldn't want to
Hmm.
be and you wouldn't want to happen to you,
Right.
right? And I had to make that real. It had to be both, right?
Mhm.
Like this dude's not just a hero and his life's easy. No, he's come from hell. That's what has shaped him. And here's what I love to say too. Um, I don't know why, and this isn't a call out, but most of the people and every Facebook ad I get hit with is he's ex CIA, he's ex Delta Force, he's ex this, he's ex that. Hey, I've worked with elite military.
Hmm.
I, a tough guy can come from anywhere, baby.
Right.
Right? Like you can be, like I don't know, throw them in there with all those UFC dudes, and that isn't going to go well without, without all the gear or gadgetry or whatever else. So I wanted to make sure is remind everybody, hey, really super tough badasses can come from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what this guy is, right? And why? Because I know a lot of them,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
I know
so
a tough guy that cuts tree or is retired now, cut trees for a living. I know another guy that uh works on like a company that they sell in-house like fireplaces and all stuff like that. But these are tough dudes, man. I
yeah,
mean, they can take a punch, they can
but,
throw
but,
punches. They're just
but that's what I'm saying. I think
yeah, they come from everywhere.
we've gone so cliche that it's like, oh, it has to be this. It's always it's this guy, and now he's something happened. Now he's out of this thing that he got so trained, which by the way doesn't always train you like that, like what
Right.
I think the vision is. But then, and then, and I don't know, like I wanted to do something, throw it so on its head where this guy is none of those things, and that was what
Hmm.
got the publishing house excited too,
Yeah.
right? So, without giving away again too much, but I'm hoping it excites everybody to want to see this guy. And I hope you do check it out and you read it. And here's another thing I'll throw out there that email that I threw out there. If you read it, write me about it. Tell me what you think. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I would, what I don't have is a giant team helping me out where we talked about this.
Mhm.
Like you read a Baldacci book, at the end of the book, there's an 80-person team that like helped out from
Yeah.
everything from research to maybe helping write it. I don't know. Whereas this one, guys, I'm it. Like like every one of my books that I just showed you, no one ghost wrote, nobody did it on there, and I, put my name on it. That just isn't where it's at. So I take great pride in that, but at the same time, I understand the limitations. That man,
Sure.
I could use some help. Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
could,
and you
yeah,
find people in the journey. So I'm about, and we talked about it a little bit. I'm about 100 pages now left of editing. And it's edited. It's been professionally edited. Supreme Justice, which will come out, I don't know, about a month after your book or so. It'll come out middle of July. Um, I'm going through it, but I'm trying not to change much because it's already been professionally edited. So if I screw it up, it's going to go out
yeah,
screwed up.
your fault.
But I do have one person. She's one of my readers that really liked The Body Man and liked my books. And she volunteered a couple books ago of, hey, she found some problems, some typos with The Body Man when it was through the publisher. And she was very apologetic about it. But she goes, I hope you don't mind. I was like, no, tell me, I'll send it to the publisher. So the last two books, she goes behind me before I send that file to Amazon and Ingram Spark and all that. She gives it a final read and she's mentioned the acknowledgments. If anyone pulls up like Babylon will Rise, I mention her by name. She'll give me that final set of eyes, and it doesn't matter if I've had a professional edit. She'll find, and I'm sure she'll miss something. She'll find a couple words here and there, like, oh, you got the wrong, that's the wrong context. That's not, you didn't want came there. You wanted
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
So,
watch this. My dad did that for me, but the book was already done and he found two in this one. So
yeah,
that'll be a challenge. Hey, I'll give it another challenge. If you read it and you find the two in there that I have that are dog-eared now too, and they're small,
Yeah.
tiny. But yeah, I'll have to figure out something else if somebody does that. If
Well,
you, then I
the
know they read it.
the funny thing with that is, I know people that go the self-publishing route or whatever, and they're very conscientious about the fact of they don't want to put out something with mistakes, but mistakes happen. But go grab a book at Barnes and Noble that are on the New York Times bestseller list,
They'll
and I
find it.
don't think you'll find a single book that doesn't have at least one
Yep,
typo. Maybe,
for
maybe,
sure.
but I've found stuff in, and I won't say the names of the authors, but big name authors, and some of them like 3 or 4 pages in, and I'm like, how did that make it
Yeah,
through?
they missed
And
that
how
one.
many did they not have 50 people that saw this ahead of time? Was it only one, two, five, 10? So yeah,
Yeah.
wild.
Well, hey, we have covered a lot of things. What I'll throw out there for anybody that is the regular listeners to this, if you enjoyed it, we're definitely just scratching the surface, and I don't want to burn everybody out. Like I think we're already at like probably an hour, and I never wanted to go too far.
Yeah,
But the
we're
whole
good.
thing is, but if you write Eric and tell him, man, we love this guy, we want to see him for more stuff. Like Mr. T said in Rocky 3, I got a lot of mo for you. So like there are like
I
I got so
control who
many
comes
ideas.
on this thing, so just
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
know. Martin can come back for part two for
Yeah,
sure.
there could be another one, but hey,
Absolutely.
but I hope if everybody enjoyed this one, you did listen to it and you got something from it. That's what we're trying to do as artists, from whether it's our writing or even when we're speaking. We're trying to do something and put it out there and I don't know, make it better than when we found it, right? And
Exactly.
that's
Well, that segues into my final question, which I don't think you know is coming, but I do ask pretty much every guest, unless they're a repeat guest, because I've already asked it to them. Is I think you'd agree with me, life is like a book. We have a first page, we have a last page, and like you said, the crux of what happens really is what's in the middle. We don't know how many pages we're going to have in our book of life. But, Martin, besides writing nonfiction books about fitness and all leadership, you have now been a fiction writer. So you can write. So you get to write your last page. What do you want it to say?
meaning of the story of my life,
Yeah,
you
the
mean?
story of your life. However you take that question,
I
there's
think
no wrong answer.
how it would go is I would say, hey, Martin Rooney passed away today at the ripe old age of 99 years old. He was surrounded by, his still living daughters and his wife, but then his 20 grandkids and his 35 great grandkids. And he was a shining example that the best thing they could say about him is he did it right, right? He lived every day the way it should be, and the world was a better place because he was there on it, and he won't soon be forgot, right? Like I think that would be a great one, and I think maybe yeah, I don't know. I've never been asked that kind of thing before or whatever else. One, man, I got a lot to do, and time is ticking, and I
Yeah.
want more of it. With my mom just passing, it really showed me, hey man, family is everything. That
Hmm.
if you, yeah, I wouldn't trade 100 bestsellers for being alone, right?
Right.
Like, and I've seen people like that. You think they have everything, and man, they're missing the part that means the most.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
ultimately, I think the way you really live on is through that family and the people that were close to you and
Hmm.
that knew you.
Well,
And
and
I,
through the books that you're
yeah,
going to put out, a part of you will
yeah.
be out available for people to be entertained with by learn something. So, I got asked a question like that years ago. I was out to lunch with someone, and they asked me, "What do you want your basically your tombstone or your obituary to say?" And that kind of got my brain thinking along those terms of don't think about it every day, but every now and then it will pop in my head of like, am I doing something I want to do or leaving something behind I want to leave behind? And ironically enough, for the book that's coming out for me for Supreme Justice, my dedication is actually to a friend of mine who died. I was 39, he died at 40. And I'll tell the story about it in the acknowledgments that people can read about my friend Donnie. But he died at 40 years old. And he had had an illness, so he knew his lifespan wasn't going to be 70, 80, 90 going into it. When he was a teenager, he was diagnosed with this horrible disease. But the thing that struck me about him and the why I wanted to dedicate this book to him is because he would have really liked Merci. He would have liked that character. He would have thought she was hot. He would have been like, "That's my character." So I was like, "Well, this is the book I'll have to give to him." But what I want to do is get his story out there because the cool thing about Donnie was he never complained. So met him in college, and I knew him for 20 plus years, 25 years. The guy never complained once about something that he knew was going to be a untimely early death. He knew it was coming. Didn't know when it would come, but he knew it. He knew he wouldn't live to be old age because of what he had. Never once did he say, "Woe is me. Woe
Yeah.
is me. Look what God gave me, or look what whoever gave me in life to deal with."
Yes, sir.
Your
Yeah.
attitude. So he took those 40 years he lived and he did the best he could with them. And when he was gone, there was a pile of people there to celebrate him. I stood by his grave with our friend. The three of us were really good friends. I stood there and said goodbye to him. But man, there was a lot of people there, and he touched their lives. And whether you live to be 20 or 40 or 90 or 99, whatever it is, what you leave behind is those people that are going to be there after you're gone. And how did you leave them?
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Hey,
um,
I think this was a pretty spirited
yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
If anybody didn't think so, put your fingers on your neck and see if you got a
Check your
pulse.
pulse. Well, we got to end it with this. We got some giveaways going on, but where should people go to get up their copy of Blood Feud? Where do they go?
Yes, we talked about it already. We told you all the stuff. If you want to check it out, hey, Amazon.com, right, is where to go. I think it will be in bookstores as
Yeah,
well,
probably will be.
but I am not sure how or when that is happening. But I know that when you probably listen to this podcast, you will be able to have it the next day,
Yep,
start digging in, and then write me and tell me what you think about it.
absolutely. Martin, thanks for coming on, buddy.
No, hey, my pleasure.
Blood Feud, get it.